G'day everyone, welcome back to the Butcher's Bubble podcast. I'm your host Ant, and today's guest is Mitch from the Australian Brisket Board company. Let's go.
G'day, Mitch. How are you, mate?
Good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you for joining me. It's been a long time coming, it feels.
Yeah, look, we've been talking about it for a little while, but here we are. So now, mate, we're at opposite sides of the world, and it is what time in the UK?
It is 9:52 p.m.
9:52, 7:52 on a Monday morning here in sunny Brisbane.
Oh man, it looks good though with the old brizzy weather. You had thunderstorms and everything, like because obviously I'm watching the weather, but now it seems to have been cleared up, and it looks like we got like a week of just sunshine now, and it's going to be in
Yeah,
the
look,
30s.
it is, mate, but you've got to define good because, as you probably recall from your time in Brisbane, it can be 30 and sunny and 89% humidity. So, mate, you're dripping of sweat before you get out of your car. So, you know,
It's better than freezing because we've had like nothing but frost and like ice thunderstorm, like ice warnings and everything. Like up in Birmingham, it was snowing, and then that's only 4 hours away.
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
crazy the old weather. But I'm looking forward to it, mate. Like I'm looking forward to today, and the listeners will as well. It's gonna be good. So take us back, mate. Paint us a picture of who you are.
Okay, well, I'm Mitch from the Australian Brisket Board, mate. Look, just to sort of build a bit of a profile. I'm you know, just a guy who decided a few years ago to chase an idea and chase a passion. And the simple steps were that, um, and it's probably not so obvious. I think when I think about it, most people assume that I've come from a woodworking background, or I must have enjoyed woodworking because here we are now. Um, we've been able to achieve probably um, one of the broadest and most exposed chopping board businesses across Australia, and we're servicing all sorts of international customers at the same time. But it didn't come from being a woodworker. Uh, I was just a mad foodie who loved to cook and loved to entertain, like really, passionate about it. And I've come from a business background, and specifically, my background is in high volume corporate retail.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that's and look, I spent pretty much my entire upbringing. It was the first job I got was let's call it polishing apples. You know what I mean? Not literally, but it was I was it was a ground level sort of after school job, and it was the temporary thing I wanted to do while I was waiting for an apprenticeship. I wanted to. I had this obsession with going and getting into electrical work and building and construction and that sort of thing. But ultimately, when you're young and pretty dumb, I was spending money as quick as I was making it. So, by the time an apprenticeship came along, it was like, nah, I'm already spending more on my car repayments than the first year, apprentice wage. So, but mate, look, it was, yeah. So my background's high volume retail. Spent the better part of 27, 28 years doing that,
nice.
and look, it was a lifetime career. It was something that I spent many years in leadership roles, operational roles, coaching roles, subject matter expert roles in a lot of fresh food areas, particularly, and a
Okay.
lot of. And then eventually sort of got into the engine room, in a grocery business. Your long life commodities are pretty big.
Yeah.
And look, the scale of business, and I'll just set the context because there's business and there's business, I guess. And the one thing that I've been, the one advantage that I've had in transitioning into my own business was exposure and experience in leading businesses that are turning over anywhere from $1 million a week to 15 or $16 million a week. You know,
Oh,
700 700 million annually, 2,500 people. But and it's not like, I was this Spartan general at the front of a crew of, 1 million people behind me. It was more that as you start to grow in your accountability, your role changes. Your how you manage changes a lot. Your decision-making process and how involved you are with compliance and regulations. So that's the short journey. And I mean, the short version of a long journey. Um, I I've got a very very close, a very intimate understanding of, um, you know, I think what's the trendy term? FMCG, I think we call it, fast moving consumer goods.
yeah, yeah.
But the intimate part is the knowledge that I've got in the fresh food side of any business. Whether it be the butcher game, whether it be the produce operations, the fresh stuff, the seafood, a lot of that volatile side of business. And for those that don't know and have never experienced working with perishable foods,
Mm,
whether it be temperature controls or temperature controls, food safety. There's a food science behind it.
hmm.
Um, so my background is, and it's funny because this is the first time in any open forum I've actually shared that publicly.
Wow.
I don't promote that. Not because I'm trying to avoid any of my history. It's just not relevant to the Australian Brisket Board until I
Mm,
see someone posting about plastic chopping boards and wooden chopping boards and all that fucking guff that people talk shit about. And I think to myself,
yeah.
there is a food science around it, and unfortunately, as you probably know, in social media, you're only so limited to you know where your voice and your education can spread. So it's a
Mm.
need to know basis. I don't sort of share that stuff unless it's relevant to the conversation, and that's why I'm bringing it
Yeah,
up now.
yeah, nice.
So
I've seen a lot of back in the day, well, let's say back in the day, but like maybe a year or two, that plastic board and it had the handle and then you chop everything and then you can fold it and then it folds down and you can put everything into the pan. And I was just like, it's like everyone's like, vegetable knife or whatever is going to be like at least 2, 3 inches. Why don't you just pick it up and then just plonk? Or you get the food scraper and just like, because everyone needs a food scraper like in their kitchen.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's part
correct.
of what you do. And everyone eats every day. Want to
Yeah, yeah.
invest into it, yeah. But like,
Look, the thing about it, I mean, look, our bread and butter and my livelihood is dependent exclusively to be able to generate interest and
mm,
knowledge around why timber cutting boards are so good. But that's never been the motivator. The motivator for me, and just to close out the origin story, as I said, I was a mad foodie. I worked a corporate job. And, there was a point in time where I fell out of love with that, moved on to other things. But ultimately, um, I think it was sort of late 2019 into 2020. And as we know, the world went upside down at that time.
mm,
Well, I decided, by coincidence, to have a red hot crack and do something. And the passion was driven by the foodie. So the company, as it's registered, is Food Studio and Food Studio Shop, and that was initially, I think, the social media pages,
mm,
and that was the vehicle for my food creations. I was no different to a lot of these guys, cooking something, presenting it, taking a photo or a video, and posting it.
yeah,
And there's a funny story behind that. I spent time when I came out of the corporate space, and like full disclosure, I was in mate, I was in a deep, dark hole. It was a really, really, really tough time for me. And it wasn't, I just didn't sort of, hop, skip and jump out of it and go, oh, la-di-da, I'm going to go and start a business. It doesn't work that simply.
Mm.
You know, being cooking, was my way of keeping my head straight.
Mm.
And, the important thing for me was to be able to just have something to distract me, I think. You need sometimes as maybe as men, we need to be distracted from ourselves. But look, I remember my wife said to me one day, she said, I look at these meals, and she said, you really should have an Instagram page or something.
Mm.
And I said, don't be silly. I said, that's the wankiest thing ever. I said, I would never. I said, I would never. I said, look at these wankers. They're taking a photo, cooking a meal and taking it, I said, mate, that's stupid.
Mm.
Well, fast forward 6 months while I'm in this headspace,
Mm.
and I did exactly that. And mate, it was the best thing I ever did, because immediately what you become immersed in is a community.
Yeah.
And the twist in this was that the vehicle of choice was Instagram, and the community is just so positive. It's like it's they'll always be positive. They're always being reassuring. I mean, I've seen posts where people are putting up a dirty old snag on a plate with a bit of tomato sauce, and it gets likes and encouragement.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not taking the piss, but I, I find that there's it's quite heartening. Like I like that, because there's, as we know, social media also brings the other side of it. There's the keyboard warriors, there's the people chopping people down, and all that negative stuff. So now, what I was able to do was leverage that community progressively. I suppose I used it to be able to expose and highlight the thing that I was doing, which was cutting boards. We also run some other brands as well. We've been operating a gifting brand for some years now, and
Yeah.
it's been quite a blast. But the engine room really quickly became this product, which is the Australian Brisket Board, and in simple terms, it's just it's an extra large chopping board, and
Extra
it's
sexy. It's an extra sexy size. I love him. I love him.
yeah, and look, again, this is a bit of a disclosure thing, because I don't talk, I haven't really sort of been very open. And look, by coincidence, 2026, one of the projects that I'm working on in the new year, or during this year, is I've made a commitment to map out and chronicle what the last 5-6 years has been, and how we've been able to build. 5 years ago, and I was working on a plastic table in my yard, and
Mm.
I wasn't a woodworker. Now, that's a true story. That's not that's genuinely, but fanatical about doing it. There's no barrier, and there's a whole heap of things. You've got to be
Yeah.
resourceful, you've got to be resilient. All those small business challenges that everyone goes through. And I think, I know before we started recording, there was a comment you made about working 91 days in a row, and
Mm.
what's interesting about that is that I too have been there, and to a point where I worked till I was delirious. It was, and it's unhealthy to an extent, and the reason I don't openly talk about it is because I know how unhealthy it can be, and
Mm.
I don't need to sort of promote, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it. But
No.
mate, when you're driven to create something, you'll do what it takes. And
Yeah.
so part of my commitment this year is to sort of chronicle those steps, how we went from um, an unknown product brand identity to
Mm.
being, we're now sort of pretty well known and very established in this space, 5 years on. But
Yeah, I would say you're heavily loved, and a lot of people who I was speaking to about back home and everything, I was like, "Oh, what's Mitch like?" And everyone says the same thing, man. He's down to earth, super, super chilled, and he just believes in this product, and the product works and it sells itself. And I was like, "Good," because you fooled me by the styles, your videos and everything. Like when I was thinking about it, I was like, "This dude's got to be like." That nerdy kid in like man arts who's just fucking locked in on like doing this wood and everything. But like you just say, nah, man, just is like a project. I was like, you've done like 30 years of like experience in that 5 years, and the styles, the designs, these unique boards that you've just introduced, you've taken it and you've blown it out of the water, mate. And it's super pleased to see you doing very, very successful with it.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. And
Mhm.
look, for the people that say I'm super chill, they don't work for me clearly.
Clearly.
because um, the way you build these things. So right now we're a team of 9 going on 10.
Mm.
This has well and truly become a $1 million brand. It's we're not doing backyard stuff.
Mm.
We've got a network of over 60 stockists around Australia, and we're working on activating some international projects this year.
Wow.
And we've sent product all over the world, but we're sort of building a new capacity now to actually be available in other parts of the world. More to come on that, but it's a process, and manufacturing, Australian manufacturing, and look, I'd imagine it's very similar in the UK, mate. It's a tough thing, manufacturing.
Mm.
We're talking about really high labour costs and so forth,
Mm.
mate. It's not for the faint-hearted. So
No.
it has to be done a certain way. And look, the reason and the relevance to me telling you what my background is in this context. You can't start a business without some form of business or commercial knowledge,
Yeah.
because what it becomes a passion project led by your emotion, not your sense and not your logic.
Wow. Okay, that's a
Um,
really good way of putting that.
Yeah, and that origin story of the brisket board product, we were already in business for a couple of years before before I came up with that product. And the cool thing about it is that it's a chopping board. I mean, it doesn't get more old-fashioned than a wooden chopping board, right? Right now there are tech nerds all over the world, scrambling and climbing all over each other to build the best app and the thing that's going to automate things and create all this. Bro, we've got a wooden chopping board, you know,
Back to basics. Keep it
right?
simple, as they say.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a magic.
Twist.
Well, the magic is this: while we are upright and breathing, we value as humans coming together over a meal. It brings
Hmm.
people together.
Hmm.
It bonds us. Dare I say it? It creates a relief and a place, a happy place for people, regardless of where you're at and what you're experiencing. It brings the greatest level of joy imaginable.
Yeah. Breaking bread is always that bond moment.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Very
if
nicely
if
put.
well, it's important to it's important to establish the identity is based on what it is that we're presenting.
Mm.
Nothing gives me more, and I say this with a really high degree of sincerity. Nothing pleases me more, nothing excites me and makes me more proud to see my product, the Australian Brisket Board, at the centre of so many people's table,
Yeah.
the center of so many people's celebration
Mm.
everywhere. It's crazy. I don't stop. I don't like. I'm never used to that. I still see it, and it still gives me the same buzz
Mm.
to be able to provide the perfect backdrop for people's food creation. Food is like your baby, right?
It is. Yeah.
So we have such an emotional connection to it. So
Mm.
for me, and you can even hear in the tone in my voice has changed when I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
It's emotive. It's something that's really special. But culturally, it's universal. It's
It is.
not.
Yes.
It's not the Australian thing or the Australian way. It's worldwide, and that for me is an important thing. I mean, the product, and if I can just go back a couple of steps, we were doing other things, and the origin of that particular product and brand came from it was a combination of simply being asked, "Hey, can you make a big thing?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. What size?" And the dimensions were just fucking ludicrous. Like it was. I remember making these boards, and just for the record, I actually learnt the craft. So whilst I wasn't a woodworker, I
Yeah.
committed myself to thousands and thousands of hours, genuinely, of studying the craft and then
Yeah.
hands-on experience. It was just me, just by myself. Originally at home, eventually in a shed, eventually in a workshop, and we've gotten bigger. And I'll take you for a tour shortly, and I'll show
Nice.
you around the place. But
Nice.
the interesting thing about it is that when I looked at this product, man, it was a monstrosity. It wasn't a. So I'll just show you for context. This is actually a little. This is up in my office. This is one of the first sort of, I suppose, a board that you would craft. With some technique, skill.
That
It's
checkered
huge.
kind of style that you've
Yeah,
done.
look, yeah. Um, the funny thing about it is that it's a normal traditional size cutting board. So when I
Yeah.
made these things, they were a spectacle. Now pause that for a moment and go back to the origin story of what I've done for the last 27 years,
Mm.
mate. As a lifetime retailer, particularly I suppose operating at a commercial level.
Yeah.
Mate, we're like trained assassins when it comes to spotting opportunities in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I said to myself, so the internal conversation was, hey, no one's doing this. No one is doing crazy big boards, juice channel, and they're
Mm.
purpose built. And I
Yeah.
thought, hang on, let me just think this through. And you do a scan, you do a Google, and I mean, again, we've not reinvented the wheel, but what we've created was availability. So I put a toe in the water, and I thought I just want to see what sort of interest there is, and I'll never
Mm.
forget it. I took some photographs, and I did an Instagram post. I think I boosted the post. I don't know, it was $50 or $100. It was just something,
The
and I
standard kind
think
of
with
one.
standard kind of one, man, like
Yeah.
pictures and some words.
Mm.
And I will tell you that within the first 3 days, we sold like 30 boards, from
Oh.
zero to like 30. I hadn't made them yet.
Oh
We just
shit.
sold them. Hadn't made them. Didn't have packaging. Didn't, because I didn't anticipate that the response would be that strong. So scrambled, made these boards, got them out. It was a bit of a shit show. And I thought to myself, let me. That was a coincidence. Let me just do that again, just make sure. Did the same thing, and this time not only did we sell more, I had dudes from the US messaging me on Instagram saying, "How can we get these boards? Do you do bulk batches? Do you do?" And I'm just
Wow.
like, "What the fuck has just happened?" Right. So, needless to say, off I go scrambling, and mate, I was making these boards genuinely from scraps and offcuts and ex recycled stuff, whatever I could gather, because the other part about this whole using recycled or salvaged, the premise of that is this, and I don't want to get into the environmental politics, but when we talk about a forestry renewal and things being sustainable, the true sustainability, well, to me, the true value comes not from how sustainable the trees are. We can't cut trees down to make boards.
No.
That defeats the purpose. If you can if you can repurpose something that's been discarded, something that's offcut, salvaged, that to me is the true value of recycling, upcycling, and being able to contribute to this circular economy. That, and again, I'm not getting into the environmental politics of it, but I just sit quietly in the background sometimes and I watch some of these brands, and look, you do. I mean, this is a commercial entity, so I need to have an awareness of what's happening in the marketplace. So where I see brands going, we plant forests to make our product, I think, fuck, we dead. Like what? Like, you're self-sustaining, but that's not environmental.
No, not at all. Not when you think about it and put it in that context, and you're inside of that realm of like yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, as I said, we'll move on from that because it's a can of worms. But and I don't like to get into it, and nor do I like to get into the. I don't preach to people about you really. I see some dudes out there going, plastic's this and glass is that and titanium's rubbish, and I just think, mate, you want the board or you don't. It's it's a funny thing, but that story that I shared about where the product started, I think the important thing to note, and these are the important things for small businesses to be aware of, that when you are passionate about a particular thing and you specialize in it, it doesn't just come together. It doesn't just happen because you love it and you will it to come together. There is a complexity behind the growth, the implementation of anything. I mean, down to the detail of, this thing here as a brand, that went from that story I just told you to a fully established, website, socials, point of sale material. The boards went out into stockists, and they looked like I met a guy. I'll never forget it. I met a guy in the barbecue community, and I met him because he was a customer, and anyone in the barbecue community, in the meat community, in the foodie community, I'll say it openly, mate. They are the best people. They are the best people. They are the friendliest people. They are genuinely, mate. It's if you're going to be obsessed about anything, this is the crowd to be in and obsessed with, right?
Yeah.
It is just full. It's wall to wall, just legends. This guy, I had an interstate trip. He came and picked me up from the airport. We hung out. We went for coffee, and we're just chit chatting. And he said, so how many years you've been doing this? I said, mate, we're 6 months in. He goes, fucking what? He goes, 6 months in. He goes, mate, I've been following your brand. I got into barbecue, and he said, I've been following you because everyone's got your products. I just assumed it's just I'm getting myself kitted up. So this is part of the kit I have to have. He said, mate, I would have thought you've been around for 10 years or more. I said, yeah.
You tricked me. It's good.
Yeah, but this is but it's not accidental, and this is the point I'm making, is it's very, very planned, very strategic, very, ticking all the boxes through the complexity and bringing a brand to life. Now, look, man, I'd be lying if I said that, I haven't committed an obscene amount of time to social media, content, ongoing creation, but you know what? Engagement. I don't schedule posts. I don't outsource it. I drive it because The
Mm.
other thing that businesses need to be aware of, they think of it like an afterthought. Oh, I haven't got time for it. And, you know, I've told this story a few times when I was in the retail game. A matter of fact, I was in North Queensland. This is a funny story I've told a handful of people over the years. I remember visiting a store in North Queensland one day, and I had the the managers with me, and I said, right, let's have a look at your, there's a process, right? And we're looking at the shelves, and you're looking at gaps and your in stock positions and all these things that
Mm.
make that store, it's part of that world. And I remember getting down the first aisle, and I looked at one of the managers, and I said, you haven't done your scan this morning, have you? And the scan is just to identify an out of stock and to go find it and put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And before he answered the question, I said, in my mind, I knew what his answer was going to be, which was, I haven't had time. And because what happens is he's come in and he's running around, like a headless chook, and he's doing everything but that task.
Mm.
And I looked at him and I said, hey, I said, have you ever slept in the morning and been late for work? He just sort of looked at me funny, and I said, I overslept the alarm. I said, that feeling? And he said, yeah. I said, and you run around, and I said, you're getting yourself ready, and you jump in the car, and I said, that knot you have in your stomach? He goes, yeah. I said, when you got to work, were you wearing pants? And he sort of looked at me and goes, he's thinking, what the fuck's this bloke talking about?
Yeah.
I said, when you got to work, did you have your pants on? And he said, yes. I said, let me get this straight. You lost the 40 minutes that you would normally get up, get ready, get dressed, have your breakfast. I said, all that time went out the window. But putting pants on was automatic. You didn't even think about it, did you? I said, because if you rocked up without pants, it would be inappropriate. He said, yeah, that's right. I said, you're in a grocery business and you're telling me you haven't got time to put stock on shelf to make money. I said, get your priorities right. You
Oh.
cannot walk around thinking with this illusion that the primary purpose of your existence as a retailer,
Yeah.
of putting stock on the shelf for customers to buy, is the thing that you have to make time for. It's like breathing. It's like putting pants on. It's
Yeah.
automatic, and then everything else gets built on top of that.
Yeah.
Now the reason for the long-winded story is because in small business, and when you want to promote something for yourself, I struggle to understand when I talk with businesses. I say, tell me about how do you tell the world about your product? Are you on social? Are you? Oh, mate, I haven't got time for that. I'm not into this social stuff.
Mm.
I'm thinking, brother, it's like putting pants on. That comes
Yeah.
first, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we make our toast, and then we comb our hair, and then we go about our day. So my commitment to the social media isn't because I've got better things to do. I haven't got better things to do. It's if I don't drive that exposure piece, no one will. But in the early phase, particularly, not only do you not have a budget for it, no one loves your baby like you.
Yes, exactly.
No one, and no one has access, unlimited access like you do.
Mm.
So, there's if I could impart anyone in the business community or anywhere, is to impart one piece of advice and one thing to get people, I suppose reset with their thinking.
Mm.
That thing comes first. I mean, I've come from a generation where we got our media through the TV and the radio and print.
Yes.
And, according to my kids, stone tablets as well, right? When I rode my dinosaurs to school. But, the reality is, relevant to, I suppose, coming back to the brand, this thing came from zero to being everywhere within
Mm.
like 6 months, 6, 8,
Oh yeah.
10 months.
Oh yeah.
And
Gee.
it became this perpetual thing where, I have a good mate who's down in Victoria, and we talk, we actually talk business quite often.
Mm.
Uh, well, we were not as often now because we're busy. But he said to me one day, this was, I reckon we would have been 18 months into the journey, and he said to me, he said, mate, I don't know whether you've meant for this to happen, but he said, you are this, mate, you're the smartest so and so that I've every time I open my feed, all I see is your product
Mm.
on everyone's pages. He said, did you mean for that to happen? And I said, well, no, not quite. But I said, think about it. It's the backdrop to everyone doing what they love.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah, by default, it's going to be there. But the product itself is practical, so it just makes sense. We're
Mm.
not fumbling around trying to fit a brisket or a tomahawk or a big thing on this little pissy board. It's a thing. It's a big thing. So
Part
you
of the
know,
furniture now, and it has a home, and it lives within, and we
yeah,
breathe with it. Yeah, and it's a beautiful
yeah,
piece of kit, Mitch. You've absolutely smashed it, and I love seeing it every time because like your man said, yeah. Every time I open my phone, I'm just like, "There's Mitch again." Just gonna love that post, and then I'm starting to get more into TikTok, and it's the first thing I see every time. I'm like,
yeah.
I like that shit. I like that. Oh, what's he done now? I like that. What's he doing now? Oh, it's
Yeah,
just the best thing.
yeah. No, thank you, mate. I appreciate it. But yeah, look, that's pretty much. I think, in a nutshell, that to me is pretty much. I think what from an origin point of view, from a background point of view, where we were
Mm,
and how we sort of got to this place now. I mean, if we look at I, from a branding point of view, mate, we experienced this phenomenon where I think, look, there's a phenomenon called brand, and in the business world, it's a bit of a unicorn where people can work for years at trying to promote a product or a brand. Well, we call it a brand, an identity, but that you've created brand recognition and the difference between being popular and being a brand.
mm,
It lies in, all of a sudden we crossed over this boundary, and it was like an invisible boundary where I became inundated with requests to stock the product.
yeah,
And if I said to you that we had three or four a week, every week, emailing, ringing, saying, hey, can you send us some wholesale information? We'd like to stock your product.
wow,
Now, fancy having a product that you aren't actively out trying to sell,
yeah,
and people are coming to you. Now, I say that with a great degree, a huge degree of humility and a huge degree of gratitude
mm,
that we are in a position to have that happen.
mm,
It's I out of 60 plus stockists, look, I have actively been out and sold to maybe 5 to 10 of them of
wow,
the whole portion. And
oh,
the interesting thing is that of those 5 to 10, the conversation, and I say to them openly, I'm not a salesman, I'm not a rep, I don't have a KPI.
mm,
If this product is good for you and you think it'll work for your customers, here it is, here's the information, happy days. If it's not, that's okay, no problem.
mm,
And I don't sit there. Um, I've had some interesting conversations. I've had some barbecue shops say to me, a good one that stands out is there's a guy that owns multiple shops, and I remember I did the delivery myself to one of his 3 stores one day,
yeah,
and the manager of the store just he was sour, and he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, I don't know why these have come in." He said, "They're not going to sell."
oh,
And I said, "Oh, mate," I said, "you got to talk to so and so, your boss."
mm,
He goes, they're not going to sell them; they're too expensive. Now, he's telling me this while he's standing next to a $2,500 barbecue, but that's okay.
sure, yeah, you do you, yeah,
And I didn't say anything to him. Like, my style's not to say, hey, man, listen, I've been a retailer for fucking this many years and whatever. Doesn't matter. If you don't believe they're going to sell, you know what? They're never going to sell.
Sure. Yeah.
6 months later, now, mind you, they've reordered since that initial drop. But 6 months later, I think on one of his other top-up orders, he was good enough to tell me personally. He said, mate, I owe you an apology. He said, you're absolutely right. He said, I can't believe how well these things have sold. And as soon as they sell out, he said, people are ringing us to get more. And I said, oh, well, that's very good, you know. So I let him come to the conclusion himself. And but you know, a lot of the time, it's you know, it's the product, and the reason it catches people off guard is because it's the product that you need. It's the product you realise. Well, how do I word it? People have said this to me. I didn't know I needed it until I saw it, and you know, I've sort of stopped and gone, that's an interesting way of saying it. I've bought stuff like that myself, where I might be scrolling and I see something, I think, oh, geez, that's cool.
I need that.
I didn't know I needed it until I saw it. And you know, the way the machine works and the way the algorithms, you know, place certain things, you know, naturally you start to see it more often. And you know, I'll make the purchases based on I just all of a sudden it's a great idea, and this is a product that is exactly that. You know, it. So anyway, that's sort of, I guess, the history and the background.
Nice. I just wanted to talk about your product, and it's funny that you mentioned it's like, oh, I didn't need it until I saw it, and I really want to talk about the magnetic board. Where did the inspiration for that come from? Like, that is the most genius thing I've ever bloody seen, and it's been a very long time since I've seen a product and gone, holy shit, I need that. But other than butchery equipment, but like, you know, home wise.
Yeah. I was fortunate to get an introduction for a coffee chat with the CEO of a national retailer. It's an outdoor brand, like outdoor and camping.
Yep.
And I met up with these guys, and they said, "Love your product, love your brand." This was in regard to the brisket board, but we're not a barbecue shop. What could you do for us? And I thought, So naturally, I just went straight to smaller versions of the bigger thing, things that you would take camping. But I said, look, give me a week or two, and let me come back to you. And I racked my brain, and I said to myself, so the brisket board primarily is built from the end user's point of view. So what does it need to have and do? And then if you can build anything out backwards like that, like reverse engineer from a need, you'll usually, it'll end up being pretty good. In this particular instance, I put myself in the shoes of, if I was camping, if I was going off grid, remembering these guys are camping and outdoor specialists.
Yeah. What
would I need it to do? And honestly, man, I just racked my brain. Now I have this is going to be, I'll bring the nerd out for a minute.
Go on.
The nerd in me, so the business critical thinking nerd in me knows that there is a solution to every problem if you can dig deep enough. If you can dig deep enough into layers of thought, research, you know, just you put it out there and you will find an answer. And it dawned on me that by virtue of I'm loading up the ute, the four-wheel drive, or the Land Cruiser or whatever, for it to qualify to get packed, it's got to be light, small, and useful. And I thought, okay, so for it to be useful, it has to be a certain size. For it to be light, it can't be from the same timber that we make the brisket boards. It's got to be lighter.
Yep.
And for it to stow away, it has to be thin. Great. But I'm cooking outdoors. So I go through a process of what would be useful. And my brain immediately said, geez, wouldn't it be cool if it had fold out legs or something where, it was self-sustaining, and it just not practical. I thought, you can't build stands. The stand's going to be bigger than the board, right? And I don't know, man, like honestly, I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if I had magnets on the top corners so where I could click. And because we've all been there, we've all been cooking outside, and we've dropped tongs and knives, and there's never enough
Yep.
room, and you're trying to juggle things. I said, wouldn't it be cool if you could do that? And it took me 3 to 4 months to find the
Four.
timber, to test the magnets,
Yeah.
to create the. So we had to engineer, and that's a fancy word. We just had to create a jig so it was repeatable, right? And lo and behold, the Australian camper was born. Now, I'm going to take you for a little walk,
Yes.
and then we'll
Go
come
on.
back. So we'll take you for a walk because I want to show you this here is what was created. Was the Australian camper was a product that I said to myself, look, from the point of view of remembering that I'm building this out for a retailer, and I thought it's got to be packaged. It has to have artwork. It's got to present.
It's going to show on the
There's
box what it does, like almost like Lego. It's
yeah,
got to have it all there. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll tell you a secret. When we built the box, the brand, the product, we found a cool outdoor knife and some tongs to create a kit.
Mm.
I didn't go back to the retailer. I started
Oh.
selling them online, and I built and I didn't build any campaigns. I just created a bit of organic interest, and we did a pre-sale. And mate, before we even finished and launched these things, we'd sold, dozens of them, and I thought that's,
Cool.
that I thought, okay, and respectfully, I think the right term is I said fuck the retailer. Let's just look right, because look, if anyone's been around these commercial back rooms, that retailers they want everything for nothing.
Yes, I was going to say the cost and the amount of time and effort you put together, and the cost is going to be like, and it's just going to be like, well, just to make it even worth it, they need like 10,000 or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so for all of those reasons, well, mate, we just pushed on, and here are the things that you learn. So the innovation was born, this product, and it wasn't a case of promoting it. I did a terrible job of promoting it, terrible job of sharing what we were doing. I mean, yes, sure, we did some media, and we did a little bit of, and when I say a little, I mean literally just a touch of paid stuff.
Mm.
But ultimately, I had to refine the product a few months on. Wasn't happy with the way we were embedding magnets initially from the top, so we went from the bottom. But the fascinating thing is, a few months down the track, that particular board, so the Australian camper, was what I was using at home every day. So I love to
Mm.
cook out on the barbecue and walk back in, and vice versa. And one particular evening, it would have been the third night in a row I'd come off the barbecue and sat this meat or chicken or whatever on the table, and it rested, and we carved from it, and then we served and we ate. And I just had this moment, and my wife goes, what's wrong? Because I'd gone to a place and I said, I've got it all wrong. And she said, what? I said, I'm calling this thing the bloody Australian camper. I said, this needs to be called the Australian Barbecue Board. If you've got a barbecue, you need one of these, not if you're fucking camping. I said, if, here we are pitching it to campers, mate, 1 in 10 camp, or 1 in 20 camp, 1 in 50 camp,
1 in 50, yeah.
right? 1 in probably 3 or 5 barbecue.
Yeah,
So it wasn't a matter of changing the name. It was just simply taking the existing product, shortening it up by, I think we shortened it by 50 mil. So instead of 500 mil, we came back at 450 to make it just a touch more compact for home.
mm,
Called it the Australian Barbecue Board. Didn't sell it with any of the bells and whistles, with the knives and the tongs. Just sold it standalone.
yeah,
And that's what you see. That's probably the video that you've seen me talking about, where I'm clicking and I'm talking about it being my favourite. It's because the one I use. I genuinely use it every day.
yeah,
Every time we're cooking outside, that board is part of the kit.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's a fantastic piece of kit, mate. And like, I've been meaning to like reach out and go, oh, do you want to deliver? But then I'm like, well, I'm coming home anyway, and I'm only like 12, 15 minutes up the road from you, mate. So I'm going to be popping in anyway.
yeah. Well, we'll do so, because we might do the sequel to today's podcast. We might do a part two, and we might even get you in, and we'll coordinate some activities here on site. Might even get you to make something. So we'll see how you go.
I am good with my hands, so yeah, but
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't picked up a piece of wood and carved or done anything since like grade 9. What was that,
yeah,
like
yeah,
2005 or something?
yeah. Look, just when, as we've progressed in this
Mm,
space, I think there's there is a degree of look. I think the word's authority, that you become the identity in that area. When it comes to the science behind, and I mentioned it earlier, when it comes to the science behind whether timber's right, and again, I don't engage with a lot of people to try to school them or educate them. I just
mm.
you'll never win that battle, and I often see people commenting, like, we've been doing these massive butchers blocks now. But
Yes.
by definition, these days, butcher shops don't use timber. Now, it so happens that I'm not a woodworker historically. I'm a fresh food retailer. So I actually know the science. I'm food science trained. So I
Yes.
actually know this. I actually know the science of why we don't. I don't get into the to and fro on social media. I don't say, because we've had butchers who have commented on some posts, and I know they're butchers because of their profile. Um,
Mm.
you can't use that, you don't do this and this and that, and we get all this technical shit. And I think to myself,
You're overcomplicating it.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
People now, the butcher shops who have ordered these monsters. I mean, these are magnificent. They're a Rolls Royce.
Yes.
The people who are ordering them are not ordering them to break down beef. They're not. They're ordering them because they want to be able to show and create theatre and do demonstrations. Prime example is Dougie at Meat and Livestock reached out last year. I think it was last year or the year before, and he said, "Hey, we're doing this. We're creating a new space at Meat and Livestock in Sydney, the headquarters. They're building out these beautiful kitchen areas, and they wanted a big old school butcher's block with the band." And he talked me through it. I said, "You just tell me what you're thinking, and we'll work it out for you."
Yeah.
Needless to say, it's with great pride I can tell you that this massive butcher's block on a trolley is there on display, you know, every day of the week, whenever these guys are doing presentations to international delegates, to chefs, to industry experts, to primary producers. It's on one of our butcher's block trolleys. It's
Oh,
got nothing to do with
fantastic.
food safety. Yeah, but it's theatre.
It's
It's
theatre,
not
yeah.
we haven't designed it for the practical sense. I mean, most people that buy them are not buying them for their butcher shops. If I had a butcher shop ring me and say, "Mate, we want it for the trade," I would then ask that butcher, "Talk me through your processes.
Mm.
What do and I would probably put my old my old cap on, and I would
Yeah.
I would say, the conversation would be very different. It wouldn't have nothing to do with the Australian Brisket Board. It would be around let's talk food safety and compliance and legislation for a moment.
Yeah,
Where are you going to use it? How are you going to use it? What, show me your cleaning. It's, as you are well aware, that side of the business is very serious. So
very serious. Yeah.
that's and so it should be. I mean, there's a high degree of trust that the general public has on anyone that sells food. So
Yeah.
there's a huge responsibility there.
That is a really remarkable way that you put that as well, because I think a lot of people who were, I wouldn't say dishonest, but were just like, yeah, let's just get the product out there, sell it to the butchers. And if like something did happen, let's say 6 months down the line, the butchers would be in trouble, but then they'll be pointing the finger at you. But
Yeah,
that
yeah,
person who would be, in that situation, be like, well, you asked for it, I just gave it to you. And they probably don't have the food knowledge like you and I would have, or anyone who really does step foot in this realm. They
yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah, I think it would have been a different story. But for you to put that honest retail hat on and go, look, we need to talk about that because this is a very serious, like HACCP, that needs to go down with it. And it's a very good way of looking at it, Mitch. And there's not too many people, I would say, that would do that like you would.
Well, and you know what they would say, brother? They would go, "Well, it was that T-nut that sold it to me, right?
Exactly.
It's his fault, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
He gave me some dodgy wood.
yeah, it's definitely his fault. He told me it was food safe. But no, but anyway, mate, that's yeah. So look, the the innovations, the ideas. Look, it just comes from I suppose thinking through what it is we want to achieve. How do we want
Mm,
things to look? How do we want them to function? Um, we make mistakes, and anyone who works in with any sort of material, organic material in particular,
mm.
it's tough. It's unpredictable. It's we'll get a customer have a board for a period of time, and something will happen to the timber. Nothing we can foresee. Um, it's organic fibre, so
It
we've
has,
got
yeah.
a well, the thing, and look, I'm probably going to sidetrack slightly here and talk more about business principle, but we, I'm, I've got a very strict, like when I say strict, fanatically strict view on what good customer service should be. So both as a consumer, but as a business, and I'm very mindful and very purposeful when it comes to how we manage our customer service. So it's not good customer service; it's exceptional in every aspect. And most businesses, and correct me if I'm wrong, what we as consumers don't have a stomach for is when a business makes a mistake and they don't own it. When you buy a product and you go back to that business and say, hey, this isn't right, the amount of pushback you get, the amount of resistance, the amount of hoop jumping, and then all of a sudden the amount of steps that you are compelled to have to take if you want to access a refund, a replacement, or a correction in that fault.
Mm.
My view is very simple. It's a lifetime warranty, and in the event, all I need to see is it's one of our boards, and we honour that by way of replacing, repairing, refunding, whatever the customer wants as an outcome.
Amazing.
Now, the reason I say that is such a big deal is it's the opposite of what businesses do, and we are so programmed that when we have to contact a business, now we, not me, but all of us as consumers are so programmed to have to fight for it. Picking up the call or the email comes with a reluctance. It's like, oh, what's this going to be?
Mm.
What are they going to ask me? How unreasonable? And we've, in our own personal experience, we've had some stuff that is wild. And just a side note, in due course, I'm building out some content separate to this business, because I want to be able to talk about these stories that we have as consumers. But the point I want to be able to make, just bear with me because I may lose you. I think my AirPods are almost gone.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. We may have to genuinely do a part two on this, but
That's
um,
fine.
I think that I think that building in such a safeguard for all of the times that we have failed, and look, when I say failed, the product has not performed to level.
Mm.
It's been a refreshing experience for customers because we own and take responsibility for our product for the life of the product. And when people are met with no resistance and full cooperation, they go from being bothered to then becoming advocates. So the value in it, and again, today's not about educating other businesses. It's about, I suppose, planting some seeds in people's mind, beyond putting pants on in the morning. It's
Yes.
about being able to get businesses to think about, as humans, we are wired. So if I said to you, and I'm empowering you with running my business, and you are responsible for the financial results and outcomes. When we get a customer who's having a lend, right? So let's just say it's the butcher shop. Let's say we get old mate who's come back with one snag out of 12 and says, "Oh mate, these were rubbish. I want a full refund." Now, as humans, we have a compulsion to be right above everything else. Instinctively,
Mhm.
we would rather say, "Oi, geezer, you're full of shit. Take your dirty old snag with you and fuck off." Right? That's what we want to say, right?
Mm.
Now we're raw dogging now, mate. We've got no AirPods. I hope audio's okay. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely fine.
Yeah, okay. So in that instance, fighting that compulsion to be right and saying to the guy having a lend of you, mate, I'm sorry that those snags were no good. And I'll tell you what, we're going to replace all 12 for you. Here
Mm.
you go. Enjoy your day. Zero resistance. Now, as humans, we would struggle to allow that to happen because we know it's not right.
Mm.
If you can detach the emotion and that compulsion to be right and treat every single customer with a trust, not only will that person, it's not a short-term thing that they've ripped you off 11 snags or 12.
Mm.
You're building long-term trust, and the next time they're around the barbecue and their mates are having those snags, he's going to say, mate, you got to go down to this local butcher.
Mm.
Not to pinch his snags, but these guys are just unreal to deal with. It's a great product, and they're good people, and they'll look after you.
Yeah.
And the difficulty in business is that long-term view is often either clouded by the need for short-term cash flow. Cash flow is king,
Yeah. Absolutely.
or the human compulsion to be right. Now, the relevance to this, and going back to my comment that we don't always get it right, we don't.
No.
But we've built, and knock on wood, we have, and I'll, I'll share some numbers with you, mate. We've done, I don't know, somewhere in the vicinity of 20,000+ boards. Like we've done a lot of boards in the last
Yeah.
little while. We don't have a negative review.
No.
We don't have people talking stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not because we haven't made mistakes, and it isn't that there isn't the odd comment, where someone's pissed off because they've had to wait too long, or they've received it in the post and it was broken by the courier or whatever. There's going to be that.
Mm.
This isn't about perfection, but it's unusual, just statistically on numbers, that we would have 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 transactions and not just have a comprehensive list of complaints.
Mm.
Failures have happened. The way you manage the people aspect is everything.
Absolutely.
And to
And it's a
me,
great,
yeah,
it's a great way of looking at it, especially because we do make mistakes of being human and everything, and it does fall in every area of like business and whatnot. But like for you to say it's quite refreshing, especially to be really open and honest about like something as along that lines, it's actually quite
yeah,
refreshing because no one likes to admit that they're wrong. Like you said, we always want to be right. We always want to do that. But yeah, for you to
yeah,
turn around
yeah,
and say that, it's actually really nice. It's quite refreshing, especially from an ownership, being a leader, putting your hands up and going, "Man, my bad. But let's
yeah.
amend this, and we can only do better next time."
Very much. So there's a pride involved. There's a self-esteem involved. And as I
Hmm.
said to you, mate, above all, as humans, we are wired that way. Um, the stories we could tell. The retail days where an email will drop in, and this email, mind you, has worked its way up, and it gets to your inbox, and you're looking at this, and it is turned into a shit show. And at the core of it is somebody who approached the customer service desk because they bought a thing, and the customer service attendant said, "No, I'm not giving you the refund." And then when you work your way back down through the investigation, the attendant says, "Well, they didn't have a receipt, and I thought they were full of shit. I thought they were lying." Because they've let their opinion, their human, that instinctive compulsion to be right.
Mm.
I'm not going to let that bitch pull the wool over my eyes. I
Yeah.
I sent her packing. Well, guess what? She's fucking emailed every man We've now spent as a company how many thousands of dollars in lost time for that $20 item that
Mm.
the human had to be right about. So it's so counterproductive. It's so counter. It's actually, it has a negative impact.
Yes.
But unless you take a long view of it, you can't see the negativity in it. So, but anyway, that's a little customer service thing for us. It isn't just the product, um, it's the service, and then ultimately it comes down to being able to tell the world about it. You've got to be able to be open. You have to own it, and these are the things that we work hard to maintain. It's we're not a little business anymore where we're sort of putting out 5 and 10 boards at the moment. And I'll take you downstairs in a sec. I'll get my headphones back on and we'll go for a bit of a wander before we
Yeah.
wrap up. But I want to be able to just to put some context. We've got our facility at the moment. We operate out of it's about a 350 square meter industrial building.
Mm.
And we've got a team, great team. We've got we've got what I like to call the A team, but we, mate, we've got capacity now to probably put out, probably between 600-700 boards a month. Is what we produce, six to
Wow,
seven.
way.
Um, and we're working hard at the moment. So I've just pulled the trigger last week on some new equipment, because the next phase isn't to just keep putting guys on deck. It's reducing the labour impact, increasing capacity through the use of bigger machines, some not automations per se, but things that will aid and remove a lot of that manual repetition. So
Yeah, won't put a man out. You can put another man on something else with something else where this machine will take over. It's
100%.
it's almost like taking like the old school where someone would be mincing all day, hand cranking, but now we've got those
Yeah,
machines. We can take that person. You can go over there and start breaking beef. Like it's just
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's a good way of looking at it and keeping business flowing in all aspects.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And it's funny actually because just talking about breaking down beef, I remember I remember growing up in an industry where I would see butchers. They would be bringing bodies in on the rail. The
Hmm.
truck would rock up, and mate, I was a young kid, and I'm watching these big blokes with these big, sides of beef, and these
Yeah.
guys stunk, and the truck stunk, and it was, you wouldn't look at these guys for longer than 2 seconds because they look like they'd bloody rip your head off and eat you for breakfast, like these fucking guys.
Yeah.
But and I remember working in the shops with the guys, not in the butcher shops, but I remember the butcher shops, the guys,
Mm.
the environment, the culture, the banter. Like I said, everyone was a Teenuck and or some type of a word, some type of
Yeah.
backward word, right? When you don't know the language, it's you think, what are these bloody guys smoking, right? Um, but they got the laugh on everyone. So, mate, it was really sad to see the industry become, I suppose, almost outsourced. A lot of these big companies progressively got rid of the trade at store level. They centralized production, they centralized packing, so everything then would eventually come in boxes.
Mm.
So they'd be slicing primals, and then if you fast forward now, the last 10 years, it's just prepackaged. Everything just comes in a pack to the supermarket, and it goes on the shelf. And there's no butchers on site. Butchers are made redundant, and the best thing that the big companies I've seen do is after they destroyed the industry, they've now handed it back, and they are allowing the butcher shops, the craft butchers, the local suburban butcher shops, they're allowing them now to actually shine and do what they do well. So,
Mm.
it's seeing the trade coming back. The resurgence is amazing. I absolutely love seeing it.
I love seeing it as well. I think I left in 2012 and I think I stepped into a Coles and I think I saw everything pre-packed just before I left. And they had, because I remember seeing all the butchers and they used to have the windows and everything, and you'd see the boys slicing or breaking stuff or bandsawing and that. But the last time they completely sealed up the local one where I was in the far north, they completely sealed it up and just had like pitches and or whatever, but they had everything uniform all the way through, like your red meats and everything, all pre-packed. It looked nice. Don't get me wrong, but it was just like, where are the boys and girls? Where's that old woman with the arthritis, like trying to wrap it over the heat wrap and everything as well? Like they're all gone, and like you said, they're all they're all gone and they were made absent, and then you're saying now there's a surgence of us back on the high streets or in the garden centres and all this and that, and it's coming back in a beautiful fashion, like a full swing. But I feel like the supermarkets are just, it's all about that convenience, isn't it? It always has been. But if the less you can eliminate labour, the more profitable that is. But when it comes to sitting on the high street and being a butcher, you need all hands on deck. You need boots on the ground to get results. And it's really nice, and it's quite refreshing to hear from someone who's inside the trade but not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, it's the fascinating thing is that I got to experience those big meat processing centres. I got to see what it was like, and what's fascinating was when you see it, it's just a big butcher shop. Like it's genuinely but it's, when I say big, it's like, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to go through one, mate.
Yes.
It is phenomenal when you see an entire section dedicated to just mince and just sausages and just lamb and just beef, and it makes you think, okay, so we do have butchers, it is getting done, but it's like a big super centre where it then gets packaged, boxed, and distributed into around a network. From a customer experience point of view, shopping walking the shop floor, wanting to buy for your family, it's a terrible experience. I couldn't think of anything worse than being, presented with, sometimes the only options are rubbish. You think, I can't, I refuse to buy it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So the fact that they do it, and then, when we have butcher shops outside the door of the supermarket, it's the best thing ever. Those guys should be. And again, I put my retailer cap on, and this makes me cranky actually. So you've got you've got a network and access to a lot of butchers, through your channel, through your podcast, and through your network. Mate, nothing makes me crankier than when I see a butcher shop outside of a major supermarket, and it's 5:30 in the afternoon, and they're packing up to go home. And I think to myself, mate, like I get the rostering system. I know you've been there from early on, and I get all that. I lived it for many, many, many years. But people are there to shop now to go home for dinner, and you're closed.
Yes.
Or you're not welcoming. And I think to myself, mate, evolve or you lose. Like, it's the one thing that I found, and I did as a subject matter expert over the years, you get down the hole and you understand traffic flow, consumer trends, and having people kicking off at 5 o'clock in the morning because they've got to have the window open. The window's got to be right by the time we open at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That mentality is just bonkers, because at 6 o'clock when you're closed, you're missing all those people that would have come to shop from you. It's a mentality that is just it's programmed to lose. We do it because we've always done it this way. The window needs to look good at 8 o'clock for who?
Well, this is what I've been saying for many years. I'm like, who's really your first customer other than Saturday, Sunday if you are open? But seriously, but who is really walking through your door at 8 or 9 a.m.? Your first customer is not, 10:30, 11:30? Why the fuck am I been here since 5:30 and then I got to stay here till 5:30? Like, why can't we just... why can't we just start at 9, let's say 8, and stay till 6? You get a bit of a morning with the family and whatnot. I know you get stuck in the traffic and blah, 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 but like you're saying, that 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock gap is where you're missing money. And it could be the whole difference between a £300 day or a £700 day within that 1 hour gap.
Look, and again, we're not. It's not something that we will solve, but as an observer, and I don't have a financial stake in a butcher shop. If I did, if you and I said tomorrow, right? So you're coming to Brisbane soon, and you came to me and said, "Hey, man, I've got a bag of money. Let's go and open a butcher shop," right? Aside from all the obvious things where we talk about shop fittings and fit outs and butchers, we need staff, we need whatever. The first question is, when do we want to be on display looking our best? And the answer isn't from the open to close. Like, that's a no-brainer, of course. Everyone wants that. But when are people shopping? So Saturday and Sunday is exactly right. What you said is, it's imperative. All hands, all battle stations, we're there from first thing in the morning, and we've got to be our best all day. No question asked. Monday morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning and 5:30 in the morning, when we've got somebody who's there because they've always been there, My question to you, as my business partner in this butcher shop, would be, okay, now, Ant, tell me why we need to have, butcher one, butcher A, there at 5 in the morning. Why do we need that? And you'll say to me, well, mate, the place has got to be open and presented by the time we open the doors. Yep. Does it have to be bulging and perfect? Because here's the issue that we have. The people that are coming in at 8 o'clock when your doors open are the mums who have just dropped the kids off at school. They're grabbing some stuff for later, or they want to, you'll get a handful of people. Your traffic flow is, between 4 and 6. My local shop, the butcher shop, there are days where it's 6 o'clock and I'm coming home and my wife will ring me and she'll say, can you swing past and grab some meat? I go, no problem. Mate, the fucking butcher shop's closed. And I look at it. Now, I'm not looking at it as a customer only because I can just walk in the supermarket and grab it. My brain, my 27 years of retail experience tells me, mate, how much the red carpet should be out. We should be sizzling. We should be sampling. We should be building our business around capturing that opportunity.
Yes.
And then once you unravel that piece of string and say, what would that lead to? That would lead to more of this and more of that and more time to do this. And I could then promote my business because all of a sudden, guess what? There is so much more revenue coming through the place, Yeah. But it's the mindset is we do what we want to do, not what we should and need to be doing to grow. So it's not a growth mentality. And look, I'm probably getting a bit carried away because it is something that's quite dear to me. I've spent a lifetime doing it with businesses, and it really kills me to see good, hardworking families that have got a business that aren't getting enough out of their business because
they're not willing to change.
Industries like butchery have always done it a certain way. So this is how we've always done it. So this is how we're always going to do it. And, God bless them. If it works for them, great. But I would urge anyone to stand back and look at it from a customer's point of view. And again, I'm probably whinging because it's my local and it's in my face a bit more than I want it to be. Because there's a lot of butcher shops that actually do the right thing, truth be told. And some exceptional businesses out there that, mate, I just absolutely, it's inspiring. If I can use that word, it's inspiring to see so much love and passion go into their craft and present. Look at the butcher wars. Look at these lads in the butcher teams, mate. Honestly, if that doesn't get you motivated, nothing will. That sort of stuff is fantastic.
You should have seen it in person, mate, and you should have seen the WBC in person. That is fucking phenomenal. It is one of the greatest things I've ever bloody seen. And it's not even that, it's the people in the community, like you said. Every single person is giving you hugs and just high fives, and it's just that's the community that it's all about, and they're the nicest people. We may not speak the same language as the Germans tried, or the Romanians and that, or even the Brazilians, but they're fucking still I know you, and they give you a hug, and you're that's the community, man. And it's just humbling, and it's just the best. 100%. It's the best world. It's the best world to be involved in, and that's why I have thought about quitting many times, but then I'm I'll just miss everyone, and I'll just miss playing with my food. So, fuck it. I'll keep gritting my teeth.
Yeah, that's cool, mate. I'm going to take you for a quick wander.
Yes.
So bear with me because it might be a bit bumpy. So hang on, I'll find my camera. Whoop, that's not the button I'm looking for. I don't think it'll let me turn my camera around.
Is it the bottom left-hand side? And it's the camera?
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's the camera. It's either on or off.
No, it's off.
You
can flip it around.
I was hoping to flip it. Yeah, I will. I can't see what you're seeing. That's all. So let's look. We'll go for a wander.
That's really annoying. What kind of technology is this?
Hang on. There's one hiding from the camera. Yeah, I don't know, mate. Okay, bear with me, mate. We're just going down some stairs. Say hello.
Hello.
You're on a podcast now. All right, mate. I'll take you out the front door. So this is the unit we're in. It's actually raining here at the moment. So you're going to need to work through some, put up with a bit of noise. But basically, what we've got is a whole heap of different workstations and tools set up. And look, the reality of the setup is that it works in a production like a production line. So everything that we do, works through a logical flow. So
Yeah.
everything is set up to be processed and come out in a particular way. I won't go into too much detail because we've got the boys on the tools making a lot of noise right now.
Yeah, they're working
But
hard, mate. It looks good.
yeah, so I might swing us back through and just go back upstairs. But here's where we sort of get to a point where we sort of, after the boards have been waxed and finished, they'll work their way here, and then if they need to get laser engraved, they'll go there and they'll get finished. It's actually quite odd doing this with the front camera, but anyway,
Yeah, it looks good. And I'll get to see it in person in a couple of weeks.
yeah, it'll look a little bit easier than this. And then in here is pretty much where we will everything comes through here and we dispatch. So yeah, so we'll go back upstairs where it's a bit quieter. So yeah, so that's the tour of, and mind you, none of that made sense, and you probably didn't hear half of it, but
No, I heard all of it. It was actually quite isolated, the sound, so it was like you couldn't hear too much of like the background.
Cool. Yeah, so there you go, mate. That's sort of in a nutshell. Let me just get this going. Sorted. There we go. Yeah, so that's the quick version of what keeps us out of trouble, man.
That looks incredible. I really can't wait to see it in person, mate. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be nice to see the product, like, look at the Australian Brisket Board and feel it with my own hands and touch it. And I will be taking one home.
Yeah.
Maybe two. We'll see how I go.
No, we'll sort you out. We'll sort you out. But mate, I will. Let's work toward that visit. Let's work towards a potential. We'll do some clips and some content while you're here.
Yeah.
I like to do a lot of cooking content. And what's interesting is that as a brand who makes and sells a product, I'm sure there's people at some stage who have gone out, who have watched all these cooking videos and thought, what's this fucking bloke? Stick to your lane, mate. You're just a woodworker. So it's been really nice to do full circle, because being a mad foodie who cooks, with some qualifications behind me, I'm able to come back to that cooking again.
Yeah.
And be able to promote the cooking as part of the product that we sell. So it's the cooking that got me here. It wasn't the woodworking skill, So so when you're here, mate, I'll have everything pre-planned, and we'll do some cooking while you're here for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really fired up. I can't wait to see what back home looks like as well, and see like all the new butchers I've made friends with, and see you, and finally get to see your product and get to meet you in person. So I feel like I've just been following this page for like forever, but then you're like, yeah, we've only been around 5 years, and you're just like, what? It feels like it's been on my Instagram for years, like for my whole career, for my whole career, but it's not.
Yeah.
And you should be really proud of yourself.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you, mate. Thank you. It's been it's exciting, and it's a lot of hard work. And I think the chat that we had before we went live. I think
Mm.
what what really goes on in a business, and the
Mm.
stress. The sleepless nights, the relentless hours and days. You're never switched off.
Mm.
So to be able to create some achievement, and in all honesty, mate, it's beyond the commercial achievements. Be able to be a part of communities like yours, the butcher community, the food community, the barbecue community, and maybe a little bit of the business community. I guess they're probably a bit
Yeah.
nerdier than the than the fucking cooks and the butchers. But
You say that, but there is a
it's
lot
good.
of us. There's a lot of us who have really delved deep into that field, and you should be as well, mate. You should be like, yeah, you're in that world, and you're a part of it. You're a huge part of it, more than ever. Because without boards, we can't
Yeah.
cut
No,
meat.
it is. Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, it's forever inspiring to be involved with really good people, and great communities. So mate, that's probably the best part of it.
Mm. Right, I'm going to let you go, Mitch, because it looks like you need to get some work done. I saw some people slacking. No,
Yeah,
but
I'll
it's
sort them
been,
out.
yeah, it's been a great experience. And like the tour, talking to you in person is just it's really inspiring. And I'm really proud of you, and you should be really proud of yourself, mate, for what you've created in a very very small period of time.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
No dramas.
Appreciate it, and look forward to catching up.
Yes, well, I'll be there in February, and then I'll just message you straight away and say, "Does this date work for you?" You don't. What you do? You work weekends?
Um, as a business, yeah. The facility operates Monday to Friday, but yeah, look, I'm not. I can't boast that I have a lot of downtime. I'm usually always around in one way or another. So yeah, you just let me know when you're about, and we'll make some time.
Definitely.
Care, and we'll chat soon.
Yes, mate. I'll speak to you soon. Have a lovely day. We'll speak to you soon.
See you, mate.